We're going to be going through a series of Yin Yoga stretches and reading this amazing book called Redeeming Love. If you haven't heard of it, here's your chance to get to know it. My name is Jen. This is Daniel. We are the founders of Sweet Dreams Foundation. And what do we do, Daniel?
We give children bedrooms.
We give children who are battling life-threatening illnesses the bedroom of their dreams. So, yes, we'll go ahead and get started. So, getting started, coming into all fours, and I actually think that we'll have to brighten up the lights a little bit, but why don't you get in all fours, Daniel, and go through cat-cow with them. So moving through cat-cow, Daniel is going to lift his tailbone with the crown of his head, and then as he exhales, he's going to round the spine nice and deep. Inhaling arch, just getting a little bit more light so y'all can see what we're doing over here, but hopefully you only have candles. Moving through a couple of times on your own. And then coming right back to center. So Daniel and I will be going through this together. So coming into all fours, curl the toes under, press up and back into down dog. Take a big breath in. Big breath out. Shifting the hips from side to side. You can even do this in bed. Take your right knee and bring it to your right wrist. Take your right foot towards your left wrist and slide the left leg all the way back. So it looks like I have to slide back here so that you can see. So one leg will be up at a nice angle. The left leg will be all the way back. Inhale, lift your chest. Maybe even look up towards the sky. And then exhale, surrender all the way down. So as we go through this, we're going to just get you into a series of stretches, timing ourselves. We're going to hold this pose for 3 minutes. Grab your phone. For 3 minutes while I read part of Redeeming Love. So it's going to take your mind off of the stretch, help ease your mind so that you have a better night's rest. So listening up, this takes place in New England in 1835. Alex Stafford was just like Mama said. He was tall and dark. Sarah had never seen anyone so beautiful. Even dressed in his dusty riding clothes, his hair damp with perspiration, he was like the princess in the stories Mama read. Sarah's heart began to beat with wild joy and pride. None of the other fathers she saw at Mass compared to him. He looked at her with his eyes dark and her heart sang. She was wearing her best blue frock, a white pinafore, and Mama had braided her hair with pink and blue ribbons. Did Papa say did Papa like the way she looked? Mama said blue was his favorite color, but why didn't he smile? Was she fidgeting? Mama said to stand straight and still and act like a lady. She said he would like that, but he didn't look pleased at all. Isn't she beautiful, Alex? Mama said. Her voice sounded strange, tight, like she was joking. Isn't she the most beautiful little girl you've ever seen? Sarah watched Papa's dark eyes frown. He didn't look happy. He looked angry, like Mama looked sometimes when Sarah talked too much or asked too many questions. Just a few minutes, Mama said quickly, too quickly. Was she afraid? But why? That's all I'm asking, Alex, please. It would mean so much to her. Alex Stafford stared down at Sarah. His mouth was pressed tight, and he studied her silently. Sarah stood as still as she could. She stared at herself in the mirror so long this morning. She knew what he would see. She had her father's chin and his nose, and her mother's blonde hair and fair skin. Her eyes were like her mother's too, although they were even more blue. Sarah wanted Papa to think she was pretty. She gazed up at him hopefully, but the look in his eyes was not a nice one. Did you pick the blue on purpose, May? Papa's words startled Sarah. They were cold and angry because it brings out the color of her eyes. Sarah couldn't help it. She glanced at her mother, and her heart fell. Mama's face was filled with hurt. Alex glanced toward the foyer. Cleo, she's not here, Mama said quietly, keeping her head high. I gave her the day off. Papa's eyes seemed to get even darker. Did you? Well, that leaves you in a fix, doesn't it, darling? Mama stiffened, then bit her lip and glanced down at Sarah. What was wrong? Sarah wondered sadly. Wasn't Papa happy to see her? She had been so excited that she was actually going to be with him at last, even for a little while. What would you have me do? Mama's words directed at Papa, so Sarah stayed silent, still hoping. Send her away. She knows how to find Cleo, I would imagine. Pink spots appeared on Mama's cheeks. Meaning what, Alex? That I entertain others in your absence? Sarah's smile fell in confusion. They spoke so coldly to one another. Neither looked at her. Had they forgotten she was there? What was wrong? Mama was distraught. Why Papa was so angry about Cleo not being home. Chewing her lips, Sarah looked between them, stepping closer. She tugged on her father's coat. Papa? Don't call me that. She blinked, frightened and confused by his manner. He was her Papa. Taking another breath in, another breath out. Slowly starting to make your way back up. So this is going to take some getting used to. We're going to be working on this together, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Now lean over onto the right hip and swing the left leg all the way around in front of you. Take the right leg up and over the left leg. Lean tall. Inhale, the arms, sweep them up overhead, stretch high. And then exhale, fold all the way down. Closing the eyes will start, the forehead will rest towards the knee. Arms will surrender down by the sides. Following on with our story, another 3 minutes beginning. So just rest down in this pose and just let the story take you away, not worrying about anything that's tight in the body. Mama said so. He even brought her presents every time that he came. Mama gave them to her. Maybe he was angry that she had never thanked him. I want to thank you for the presents. Hush, Sarah, her mother said quickly. Not now, darling. Papa flashed Mama a thunderous look. Let her speak. It's what you wanted, isn't it? Why are you shushing her now, May? Mama stepped closer and put her hand on Sarah's shoulder. Sarah could feel Mama's fingers trembling, but Papa didn't. But Papa bent toward her now, smiling. What presents? He said. He was so handsome, just like Mama had said. She was proud to have a father like him. Tell me, little one. I always like the candies you bring me, Sarah said, feeling warm and proud beneath his attention. They are very nice. But best of everything, I love the crystal swan. She smiled again, glowing with joy that Papa listened to her so carefully. He even smiled, though Sarah wasn't sure she'd like his smile. It was small and tight. Indeed, he said and straightened. He looked at Mama. I'm so pleased to know how much my gifts mean. Sarah looked up at her father, thrilled at his approval. I put it on my windowsill. The sun shines through it and it makes colors dance on the wall. Would you like to come and see? She took his hand. When he jerked away, she blinked, hurt, not understanding. Mama bit her lip and reached out a hand toward Papa, then stopped suddenly. She looked afraid again. Sarah looked from one parent to the other, struggling to understand. What had she done wrong? Wasn't Papa pleased that she liked his presents? So you passed on my gifts to the child, Papa said. It's good to know what they meant to you. Sarah bit her lip at the coldness in Papa's voice, but before she could speak, Mama touched her shoulder gently. Darling, be a good little girl. Go outside and play. Sarah looked up, distressed. Had she done something wrong? Can't stay? Can't I stay? I'll be very quiet. Mama couldn't seem to say any more. Her eyes were moist and she looked at Papa. Alex bent down to Sarah. I want you to go outside and play, he said quietly. I want to talk to your mother alone. He smiled and patted her cheek. Sarah smiled utterly enchanted. Papa had touched her. He wasn't angry at all. He loved her, just as Mama had said. Can I come back when you're done talking? And then slowly start to rise all the way back up. Bring the hands behind you, lift your heart, and look up towards the sky. Just a nice little gentle back bend. Coming back out of it, take the right, bend the left knee so that your left leg is at a 45-degree angle, and then take the right leg all the way behind. So setting up for half pigeon or sleeping swan on the other side. So your left foot now is at the right hip, and your right leg straightens all the way back towards the back of all the way back behind you. And then inhale, lift the chest, looking up towards the sky, getting that nice gentle back bend. And then slowly lowering all the way down. Closing the eyes, resting your eyes, surrender to your stretch for another 3 minutes. Papa straightens stiffly. Your mother will come and get you when she's ready. Now run along as you've been told. Yes, Papa, Sarah wanted to say, but she wanted to please her father more. She went out of the parlor, skipping through the kitchen to the back door. She picked a few daisies that grew in the garden patch by the door and headed for the rose trellis. She plucked the petals. He loves me, he loves me not. He loves me, he loves me not. She hushed as she came around the corner. She didn't want to disturb Mama and Papa. She just wanted to be close to them. Sarah dreamed contentedly. Maybe Papa would put her up on his shoulders. She wondered if he would take her for a ride on his big black horse. She would have to change her dress, of course. He wouldn't want to soil it. She wished he had let her sit on his lap while he talked to Mama. She would have liked that very much, and she would have been no bother. The parlor window was open, and she could hear voices. Mama loved the smell of roses to fill the parlor. Sarah wanted to sit and listen to her parents. That way, she could know just when Papa wanted her to come back again. If she was very quiet, she wouldn't disturb them, and all Mama would have to do was lean out and call her name. What was I to do, Alex? You never spent so much as a minute with her. What was I to tell her? That her father doesn't care? That he wishes she had never been born? Sarah's lips parted. Deny it, Papa. Deny it. I brought that swan back from Europe for you, and you threw away on a child that has no appreciation for its value. Did you give her the pearls as well? What about the music box? I suppose she got that too. The daisies fluttered from Sarah's hand. She sat down on the ground, careless of her pretty dress. Her heart swallowed from its wild, happy beat. Everything inside her seemed to spiral downward with each word. Alex, please, I didn't mean any harm in it. It made it easier. She asked me this morning if she was old enough yet to meet you. She asks me every time she knows you're coming. How could I say no to her again? I didn't have the heart. She doesn't understand your neglect, and neither do I. You know how I feel about her. How can you say that? How you feel? You don't even know her. She's a beautiful child, Alex. She's quick and charming, and she isn't afraid of anything. She's like you in so many ways. She's someone, Alex. You can't ignore her existence forever. She is your daughter. Take another breath in, another breath out, and then slowly start to rise all the way back up. Lifting the heart to the sky. This time lean over onto the left leg. Swing the right leg all the way around in front. And then take the left leg up and over. So both legs are straight out in front of you. The left leg now crossed on top of the right. Inhale, sweep your arms up overhead. Lift all the way up. Stretch your spine as long as you can. And then exhale, hinge over your legs. So here, again, your forehead will rest all the way down towards the left knee, and you'll completely surrender and relax. Just listening to the words of the story as it takes you away. It's a pretty long book. Hope you're willing to join in for a few weeks here. I have enough children by my wife, legitimate children. I told you I didn't want another. How can you say that? How can you not love your own flesh and blood? I told you how I felt from the beginning, but you wouldn't listen. She should have never been born, May, but you insisted on having your own way. Do you think I wanted to get pregnant? Do you think I had planned to have her? I've often wondered, especially when I arranged a way out of the situation for you and you refused. The doctor I sent you to would have taken care of this whole mess. He would have gotten rid. I couldn't do it. How can you expect me to kill my unborn child? Don't you understand? It's a mortal sin. You spent too much time in church, he said derisively. Have you ever thought that you wouldn't have the problems you do now if you had gotten rid of her the way I told you? It would have been easy, but you ran out. I wanted her, Mama said brokenly. She was part of you, Alex, and part of me. I wanted her, even if you didn't. Is that the real reason? You're hurting me, Alex. Sarah flinched as something shattered. Is that the real reason, May? Or did you have her because you thought that bearing my child would give you a hold over me you otherwise lacked? You can't believe that. Mama was crying now. You do, don't you? You're a fool, Alex. Oh, what have I done? I gave up everything for you. My family, my friends, my self-respect, everything I believed in, every hope I ever had. I bought you this cottage. I gave you all the money you could possibly need. Mama's voice rose strangely. Do you know what it's like for me to walk down the street in this town? You come and go as you please, and they know who you are, and they know what I am. No one looks at me. No one speaks to me. Sarah feels it too. She asked me about it once, and I told her we were different from other people. I didn't know what else to say. Her voice broke. I'll probably go to hell for what I've become. I'm sick of your guilt, and I'm sick of hearing about that child. She's ruining everything between us. Do you remember how happy we were? We never argued. I couldn't wait to come to you, to be with you. Don't. And how much time do I have left with you today? Enough? You've used it up on her. I told you what would happen, didn't I? I wished she had never been born. Mama cried out a terrible name. There was a crash. Terrified, Sarah got up and ran. She raced through Mama's flowers and across the lawn onto the pathway to the spring house. She ran until she couldn't run anymore. Gasping, her sides burning, she dropped into the tall grass, her shoulders heaving with sobs, her face streaked with tears. She heard a horse galloping toward her, scrambling for a better hiding place in the vines about the creek. She peered out and saw her father ride by on his great black horse. Ducking down, she huddled down there, crying, and waited for Mama to come to fetch her. Take another breath in, another breath out. And slowly start to rise, all the way back up. Neck releases last. Hands come back behind you. Lift your heart, chin towards the sky. One breath in, one breath out. Slowly coming back. Bring the soles of your feet together. Knees will open wide. So this is called butterfly pose. I know it's kind of hard to see. Do you mind grabbing water from the water bottle in the fridge? So the soles of the feet will come together. Your knees nice and wide. If you're lying down on a bed, then this is perfect for you, because then your knees will be closer. It's softer surface for you to get more comfortable into posture. So as you inhale, lift your heart, and then as you exhale, surrender all the way down. Your forehead will rest towards your feet, and if your forehead doesn't rest towards your feet and you have a pillow right by you like this, then you can rest the pillow into the feet and just rest your body now on the pillow so that you're completely surrendering all the way down. If you need a drink of water, please, please, please take it. And then jumping right back in. But Mama didn't come and she didn't call. After a while, Sarah wandered back to the spring house and sat by the flowered vines and waited longer. By the time Mama came, Sarah had dried her tears and dusted off her pretty dress. She was still shaking from what she heard. Mama was very pale, her eyes dull and red rimmed. There was a blue mark on the side of her face. She had tried to cover it with powder. She smiled, but it wasn't like her usual smile. "Where have you been, darling? I've been looking all over for you." Sarah knew she hadn't. She had been watching for her Mama. Mama licked her lacy handkerchief and wiped a smudge from Sarah's cheek. "Your father was called away suddenly on business. Is he coming back?" Sarah was afraid. She never wanted to see him again. He had hurt Mama and made her cry. "Maybe not for a long time. We'll have to just wait and see. He's a very busy and important man." Sarah said nothing, and her Mama lifted her and hugged her close. "It's all right, sweetheart. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go back to the cottage and change our dresses. Then we're going to pack a picnic and go down to the creek. Would you like that?" Sarah nodded and put her arms around Mama's neck, her mouth trembling, and she tried not to cry. If she cried, Mama might guess that she had been eavesdropping. Then she would be angry too. Mama held her tightly, her face buried in Sarah's hair. "We'll make it through this. You'll see, sweetheart. We will. We will." Alex didn't come back, and Mama grew thin and wan. She stayed in the bed too late, and when she got up, she didn't want to go for long walks the way she used to. When she smiled, her eyes didn't light up. Cleo said that she needed to eat more. Cleo said a lot of things, carelessly, when Sarah close enough to hear. "He's still sending you money, Miss May. That's something." "I don't care about the money." Mama's eyes filled up. "I've never cared about it. You'd care if you didn't have any." Sarah tried to cheer Mama up by bringing her big bouquets of flowers. She found pretty stones and washed them, giving them to her as presents. Mama always smiled and thanked her, but there was no sparkle in her eyes. Sarah sang the songs Mama taught her, sad Irish ballads and a few Latin chants from Mass. "Mama, why don't you sing anymore?" Sarah asked, climbing up onto the bed with her and setting her doll in the rumpled covers. "You'll feel better if you sing." Taking another breath in, another breath out, and then slowly starting to rise all the way back up. Neck releases last. If you have that handy dandy pillow right next to you, keep it near you, bring it right next to you, and then take your feet out in front of you. Shaking your feet out nice and gently. Take your left foot to the outside of your left glute. This is called half saddle. The right leg will just stay right out in front of you. And then your pillow can go back behind you. If you want to grab a red pillow, you can. Or you can lay all the way down. But what this will look like is your right leg will come all the way out in front of you. Your left foot to your left glute, the pillow's right behind you. Maybe there's a couple pillows behind you, and you'll slowly start to lower all the way down. Excuse me. Laying all the way down over the pillow. Closing the eyes, or again, a couple of pillows. The last thing that you want to feel is a lot of strain in the knee, so making sure that there's enough pillows behind you, or maybe you're just sitting up just like this and closing your eyes. Maybe you're leaning against a wall. but just making sure that there's no strain in the knee, but you can relax down into this posture. So lying all the way down. Allowing for yourself to completely relax. Mama brushed her long blonde hair slowly. I don't feel much like singing, darling. Mama has a lot of things on her mind right now. Sarah felt a heaviness growing inside of her. It was all her fault. All her fault. If she hadn't been born, Mama would be happy. Will Alex come back, Mama? Mama looked at her, but Sarah didn't care. She wouldn't call him Papa anymore. He had hurt Mama and made her cry. Ever since he left, Mama had scarcely paid attention to her. Sarah had even heard Mama tell Cleo that love wasn't a blessing, it was a curse. Sarah's glance at Mama's face had her heart sink. She looked so sad. Her thoughts were far away again, and Sarah knew she was thinking of him. Mama wanted him to come back. Mama cried at night because he didn't. Mama pressed her face into the pillow at night, but Sarah still heard her sobs. She chewed on her lip and lowered her head, playing That's Maverick. He likes to always get into the yoga videos. So sorry. He's our Sweet Dreams kitty. Our little Kushka. Getting right back to this. Mama cried at night because he didn't. Mama pressed her face into the pillow at night, but Sarah still heard her sobs. She chewed on her lip and lowered her head, playing distractedly with her doll. What if I got sick and died, Mama? You won't get sick, Mama said, glancing at her. She smiled. You're far too young and healthy to die. Sarah watched her mother brushing her hair. It was like sunshine flowing over the pale shoulders. Mama was so pretty. How could Alex not love her? But if I did, Mama, would he come back and stay with you? Mama went very still. She turned and stared at Sarah, and the horrified look in her eyes frightened her. She shouldn't have said that. Now Mama might guess that she heard them fighting. Don't ever think that, Sarah. But no, don't ever ask such a question again. Do you understand? Mama had never raised her voice before. Sarah felt her chin quiver. Yes, Mama, never again. Mama said more gently, promise me, none of this has anything to do with you, Sarah. Mama reached out to pull her into her arms and stroked her tenderly. I love you, Sarah. I love you so much. Taking another breath in, another breath out. And then slowly, mindfully, making your way all the way back up out of this pose. Taking your time, there's absolutely no rush. Yeah, Maverick is our kitty. And every single time that we do yoga on Periscope, he thinks that he has to be the star. So it's kind of like, when is he going to make his special appearance? Leaning over to the right. Gently release the left leg. Before we take the other side, take the legs nice and wide. So you've got that nice wide stretch with the legs. And we'll take a little break on this story. But start to walk your hands over to the left leg. And then inhale, lift the chest. And then exhale, fold over the left leg. Slowly walk your hands through center. Get nice and low in the body. Walk your hands over to the right leg. Inhale up. And exhale, fold. Slowly walk your hands through center. All the way to the left leg. Inhale up. And exhale, fold. Slowly walk your hands all the way through center. All the way to the right leg. Inhale up and exhale fold. Slowly come to center and hold here. So coming back to center. If you have a drink of water, grabbing it if you need one. If you don't need one, I may just need them from talking so much. And then starting just to surrender down. Again, if you have your pillow, you can even bring the pillow, a couple of pillows, right underneath you and lean down so that you have something to lay on, so that you're not holding your body up, but you are allowing for your body to be as heavy as you can as you melt all the way down. Okay. Never again, Mama said more gently. Promise me, none of this has to do anything with you, said Sarah. Mama reached out to pull her into her arms and stroked her tenderly. I love you, Sarah. I love you very much. I love you more than anything or anyone in this whole wide world. Except for him, Sarah thought. Except for Alex Stafford. What if he came back? What if he made Mama choose? What would Mama do then? Afraid, Sarah clung to her mother and prayed he would stay away. A young man came to see Mama. Sarah watched her mother speak with him while Sarah played with her doll near the fireplace. The only people who came to visit this cottage were Mr. Penrod, who brought firewood, and Bob liked Cleo. He worked at the market and teased Cleo about rump roast and juicy legs of lamb. Cleo laughed at him, but Sarah didn't think he was very funny. He wore a solid white apron covered with blood. The young man gave Mama a letter, but she didn't open it. She served him tea, and he said thank you. He didn't say very much after that, except to talk about the weather and how pretty Mama's flowers garden was. He said it was a long ride from the city. Mama gave him biscuits and forgot all about Sarah. She knew something was wrong. Mama sat too straight, and she spoke very softly. She's a pretty little girl, the man said, and smiled at her. Sarah looked down again, embarrassed, afraid Mama would send her from the room because he had noticed her. Yes, she is, thank you. She looks like you, pretty as a sunrise. Mama smiled at her. Sarah, why don't you go outside and cut some flowers for the table? Sarah took her doll and went out without a word of argument. She wanted to please Mama. She took a sharp knife from the kitchen drawer and went out to the garden. Mama loved roses best. Sarah added spikes of larkspur, redstock, ranunculus, margaritas, and daisies until the straw basket on her arm was full. When she came back inside, the young man was gone. The letter was open in Mama's lap. Her eyes were bright and her cheeks full of lively color. She smiled as she folded the letter and tucked it into her sleeve. She stood and came to Sarah, lifting her and swinging her around gaily. Thank you for getting the flowers, darling. She kissed Sarah. When Mama put her down, she put the basket on the table. Taking another breath in, another breath out. Slowly, mindfully, start to weave your way back out of this pose. Shifting from side to side, not in any rush. Neck releases last. And then gently draw the feet back together. This time here, the right leg, right foot, will go up towards the right hip. So we're moving to the other side. So if you have an injury, maybe one knee doesn't have an injury and the other one does, be very, very mindful. And again, just go as far as you can. Use lots of pillows. Stay upright. You don't have to lean all the way back to get the benefits of the stretch of the hamstrings and the stretch of the knee and the ankle. But if you have more to give and your body is up for it today, take your pillow, place it at the low back or a couple of pillows, and start to lean all the way down, laying all the way down over the pillow.
starting to rest down. And if you don't need a pillow, you don't have to have a pillow either. It's just there for support, gives a nice little back bend. And Maverick is back. I just love the flowers, Mama said. They're so lovely, aren't they? Why don't you arrange them this time? I need to find something in the kitchen. Oh, Sarah, it's a beautiful, wonderful day, isn't it? It was a wretched day, Sarah thought, watching her go. She felt sick with dread. She lifted the big vase down from the table and carried it outside. Dumping the wilted flowers on the compost, she pumped fresh water and poured it into the vase. It sloshed on her dress and she carried it back and slid it onto the table. She didn't trim the stems or remove the leaves. She didn't care about how they looked and how Mama wouldn't even notice. Alex Stafford was coming back. Mama returned to the parlor with Cleo. Oh, darling, I have the most wonderful news. Cleo has made plans to go to the seashore this week, and she wants to take you with her. Isn't that grand? Sarah's heart beat fast and hard. Isn't that sweet of her? Mama went on brightly. She had a friend who runs an inn, and he just loves little girls. Cleo's smile was stiff and cool. Sarah looked at her mother. I didn't want to go, Mama. I just want to stay with you. She knew what was happening. Mama was sending her away because her father didn't want her. Maybe Mama didn't want her now either. Nonsense, Mama laughed. You've never been anywhere but here, and you need to go see something of the world. You'll like the ocean, Sarah. It's so lovely, and you can sit on the sand and listen to the waves. You can build castles and find seashells. Just wait until you feel the foam tickle your toes. Mama looked alive again. Sarah knew it was the letter. Alex must have written he was coming to see Mama. She wouldn't want another scene like the last one, so she was putting Sarah out of the way. She watched her mother's glowing face, her heart sinking. Come on now, darling. Let's get you ready to go. Sarah watched her things being folded and stuffed into a carpet bag. Mama couldn't wait to be rid of her. Where's your doll? Mama said, looking around. You'll want to take her along with you. No. Why not? You've never without your doll. She wants to stay home with you. Mama frowned, but she didn't pursue it, nor did she change her mind. Taking another big breath in. Big breath out. This time, slowly roll over to the left side. So you're rolled onto the left leg. And gently release the right leg all the way down. Shaking out the legs. Bring the soles of the feet together like butterfly pose. But allow for the knees to be nice and wide. So it's like butterfly pose, except for this time, you're lying all the way down. Stretching the inner thighs. Closing the eyes. Come right back to stillness. Yes, I'm sure you guys could see the kitty in the background. He's our little mascot, our Sweet Dreams kitty. Mama frowned, but she didn't pursue it, nor did she change her mind. Cleo came back for Sarah, and they made the mile walk to the town. Cleo purchased the tickets just as the coach rolled in. The driver took charge of the carpet bags, and Cleo lifted Sarah into the coach. When the servant climbed in, she sat across from her and smiled. Her brown eyes were very bright. We're going to have another adventure, Sarah. Sarah wanted to jump out of the coach and run home to Mama. But Mama would only send her back again. As the horses set off, Sarah clung to the window, peering out as the familiar house swept past. The coach rattled over the bridge, and traveled on a wood-lined road. Everything familiar to Sarah was quickly gone from sight. She sank back against the bouncing seat. The further they went, the more desolate she felt. "We'll stay at the Four Winds," Cleo said, clearly pleased that Sarah seemed content to be quiet. She'd probably expected her to fuss. If she thought it would change Mama's mind, she might have done so. She'd never thought it would. She'd never been away from Mama for more than a few hours. But Sarah had known it wouldn't change things. Alex Stafford was coming, so she had to go. She sat still and solemn. "They're fine food and decent rooms," Cleo told her, "and we'll be close to the sea. You can walk along the little grassy path and come to the bluffs. The surf pounds on the rocks. It's a wonderful sound, and the smell of the salt air is better than anything." Better than anything? Sarah liked home in the flower garden behind the cottage. She liked sitting beside the spring house with Mama, their bare feet dangling in the creek. Fighting tears, she looked out the window again. Her eyes smarted and her throat became raw from the road dust. The hours passed slowly. The hard pounding of the horse's hooves made her head ache. She was tired, so tired. She could scarcely keep her eyes open, but each time she closed them, the coach would lurch or sweep sharply, frightening her awake. Taking another big breath in. This time, open up your mouth and let it go. One more time. Big breath in. Big breath out. Starting to wrap up. At the end of class. In just a few moments. Gently use the hands and bring the knees back together. Hug the knees into the chest. Daniel fell asleep. Hugging the knees into the chest. Tailbone down. And then allow both knees to fall over to the right. So over to the right your knees will be, but then both shoulders will be on the ground. We're going to hold the spinal twist for 3 minutes as well. So get nice and comfortable. Maybe even place your one hand on your heart, the other hand on your side. You can even use the hands to gently massage down the legs so that the left IT band can start to release. If you start from the hip and start to work your way all the way down to the knee, it'll release a lot more. So only a few more pages here. And we'll end this class with the Sweet Dream song. So surrender down. The driver stopped the coach once to change the horses and make minor repairs. Cleo took Sarah to the back house. When Sarah came out again, Cleo was nowhere to be seen. Sarah ran to the coach, then to the stables, and finally to the road, crying out Cleo's name. "Hush the noise! My heavens! What's the ruckus all about?" Cleo said, hurrying toward her. "One would think you were a chicken without your head, the way you're running about." Where were you?" Sarah demanded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Mama said that we were to stay together." Cleo's brows arched. "Well, excuse me, your ladyship, but I was having myself a mug of ale." She reached down and snatched Sarah's hand, leading her back toward the station building. The station manager's wife was standing in the doorway, drying her hands. "What a pretty little girl," she said, smiling at Sarah. "Are you hungry, sweetheart? You've time for a bowl of shepherd's stew?" Sarah lowered her eyes, timid beneath the woman's scrutiny. No, thank you, ma'am. And polite, too, the lady said. Come along, Sarah, Cleo said, giving her a nudge inside. The lady patted Sarah's back as she ushered her to the table. You need to put a little meat on your bones, honey. You give my stew a try? I'm said to be one of the best cooks on the line. Cleo sat down and took up her mug of ale again. You need to eat something before we leave. I'm not hungry. Cleo leaned forward. I don't care if you're hungry or not, she said in a low voice. You will do as you're told. The driver said it would be another half hour before we can leave, and it will be 3 or 4 hours before we reach the coast. I don't want to hear you whining that you're hungry then. This is your last chance to eat something until the 4 winds. Sarah stared at Cleo, struggling not to cry. Cleo sighed heavily, then reached out to pat her face awkwardly. Eat something, Sarah, she said. Obediently, Sarah picked up her spoon and began to eat. Mama had said that this trip was planned for her, but even Cleo acted as though she were in the way. It was clear Mama had sent her off to get rid of her. When they sat down in the coach again, Sarah was quiet. She sat beside the window, and stared out, her small hands clasped in her lap, her back straight. Cleo seemed grateful for the silence, finally dozing off when she awakened. She smiled at Sarah. Smell the sea air? She asked. Sarah was sitting in the same position she'd been in when Cleo went to sleep. But she knew her dusty face, white streaks from the tears she had been unable to stop. Cleo just stared at her sadly, then turned to stare out the window. Taking another breath in, another breath out. Slowly bring the knees back. Hug the knees to the chest. Big squeeze. And then lower the knees to the left. Lift the left shoulder up so both shoulders are nice and even on the ground. Spinal twist to the other side. They arrived at the 4 Winds just after sunset. Sarah clung to Cleo's hands while the driver untied their carpet bags. Sarah heard a great roaring like a monster and was afraid. What's that sound, Cleo? The sea crashing on the rocks. Grand, isn't it? Sarah thought it was the most fearsome sound she had ever heard. The wind howled in the trees like a wild beast searching for warm-blooded prey. And when the door to the 4 Winds opened, she heard loud laughter and men shouting. Sarah drew back sharply, not wanting to go inside. Be careful there, Cleo said, pushing her forward. Take your bag. I've got my own to carry. Sarah dragged her bag to the edge of the door. Cleo shoved the door open with her shoulder and went in, Sarah following right behind her. Cleo looked around the room, then smiled. Sarah followed her gaze and saw a man at the bar, arm wrestling with a brawny sailor. A big man was pouring ale, and he spotted Cleo right away. He leaned over to nudge the man, who was arm wrestling, and nodded toward Cleo with a quiet word. The man turned his head slightly, and the sailor, taking advantage of his lack of attention, smashed his arms out on the bar with a shout of triumph. Sarah watched in fear as the beaten man surged to his feet and hit the sailor in the right eye, sending him crashing to the floor. Cleo laughed. She seemed to have forgotten Sarah, who was now hiding behind her skirts. Sarah whimpered quietly when the man from the bar made his way to Cleo and gave her a sound kiss. To the shouts of the other men in the room, when he looked past Cleo to stare at Sarah, she thought she would faint from fear. He raised his eyebrows. A byblow? You must have taken up with pretty fellows by the looks of her. It was a moment before Cleo had her breath back and she knew what he was talking about. Oh, her? No, Merrick. She's not mine. She's daughter of the lady I work for. What's she doing here with you? It's a long, sad story I'd rather forget just now. Merrick nodded and patted her cheek. How do you like the country life? He smiled, but Sarah didn't think it was a nice smile. Cleo tossed her head. It's everything I ever hoped it would be. He laughed and took her carpet bag. That's why you're back at the Four Winds, eh? He took Sarah's bag too and grinned boldly, laughing when she drew back from him, as though he were the devil himself. Taking another breath in. Another breath out. Slowly coming to center. Hugging the knees to the chest. Interlace your fingers around your right shin and lower the left leg straight out in front of you. Taking a big breath in. Big breath out. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. Gently drawing the left leg back up. Hug both legs together. And then lower the right leg down. Fingers are interlaced around the left shin. Suck the stomach in and pull the left leg down. Deep inhale through the nose. Exhale, sigh it out. Another breath in. Another breath out. One more big, gigantic squeeze with the legs. Give yourself a nice big squeeze. And then lay all the way down. Take another breath in. Open up the mouth and let it go. So this book, this is just the beginning. It's about a young girl named Sarah. Who ends up in the sex trade business. The book is called Redeeming Love. It's by Francine Rivers. I encourage all the viewers tonight to purchase the book. And hopefully there's some of you who, just like Daniel over here, is sound asleep. We pray that everyone who is joining in his body's completely relaxed. Their minds filled with heavenly thoughts. And that you all get a good night's rest, restoring the body, allowing for you to take on tomorrow. Have sweet dreams. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So for those of you who wonder who we are and what we're doing here, recording these videos, my name is Jen, and the sleepy one over here is Daniel. And we are the founders of Sweet Dreams Foundation. We give dream bedrooms to children battling life-threatening illnesses. And our goal during this process is to create relationships with these kids, to encourage them to live that healthy lifestyle, to help fight their illness, to give them nice relaxing nights like this, to encourage the moms especially and the daddies especially to take the time to rest too. So that's what we're here for. If you'd like to know more about who we are and see some of the bedrooms and some of the children that we have given to, you can go to our website, which is sweet-dreams.org. That's SWEET-dreams.org. And if it's something that stirs you and you want to make an impact, even just $10 a month will do a huge impact making an online donation. Have a blessed night. Thank you so much.